My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 29 years old and work as a financial analyst in Manhattan. I thought I understood what disappointment from family felt like. Being excluded from last Christmas hurt deeply, but I never imagined what would come next. When I opened an envelope containing a $70,000 invoice for my sister Lisa's new Mercedes with my forged signature as co-signer, something inside me finally broke. 10 years of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation led to that moment. They had gone too far this time, so I made a decision that changed everything. If you're reading this while surrounded by loved ones, cherish those real connections. Because today, I'll tell you how I finally stood up for myself and learned what family truly means. I grew up in Westchester County, New York, in a pristine colonial house with manicured lawns and a 3-car garage. From the outside, the Donovan family was the American dream. My father, Robert, a successful investment banker, and my mother, Victoria, an elegant woman embedded in local charity circles. People thought I was lucky, blessed even. But inside that perfect house was a desert where love was currency handed out like pocket money to those deemed worthy, withheld from those who didn't please. Lisa was born when I was 4. I still remember the way the world shifted that day. Suddenly, the light that barely reached me dimmed further. Lisa was beautiful golden curls, blue eyes, and effortless sparkle I never possessed. My parents praised her tantrums as passionate, but called me difficult when I cried. If she broke something, she was curious. If I questioned something, I was disrespectful. Lisa wanted horseback riding lessons. She got them the next week. I begged for piano lessons, but was told to earn straight A's first, and even then I received them with conditions, practice schedules taped to my door, evaluations every Sunday. Eyes watching for failure to justify taking them away. On her 16th birthday, Lisa received a brand new Audi with a ribbon larger than her dreams. On mine, they handed me keys to a used Honda and reminded me that practicality was a virtue. But I learned early that being useful was the only way to survive in a family that didn't love me, only needed me. So I worked. I clawed through high school with honors, earned a scholarship to Cornell, double majored in economics and business, and secured internships others would kill for. By 24, I was a junior financial analyst in Manhattan. By 27, I had my own apartment, good retirement savings, and no debt. Yet every family gathering was an ambush of thinly veiled jabs about my materialism or how cold I'd become chasing money. The irony wasn't lost on me. The parents who measured success by club memberships and cars called me shallow while siphoning off my earnings. It started with small requests: help Lisa with rent, lend dad money for a venture, donate to mom's gala since you're doing so well. Each request wrapped in threats disguised as, love, you're part of this family, Claire. Lisa looks up to you. Don't you want us to be proud? I paid off Lisa's $20,000 credit card debt when she cried about responsibility. 6 months later, she maxed it out again for a Bali vacation. When I expressed frustration, Victoria pulled me aside with a weary sigh. Lisa just experiences life differently. You're so blessed, Claire. Don't begrudge your sister a little happiness. Last year, they asked me to cover their property taxes while buying a vacation home in the Hamptons. When I questioned it, Robert reminded me how much they sacrificed for my education, conveniently forgetting my scholarships and student loans I had just finished paying off. Despite it all, I still longed for their approval, like a starving child begging for scraps. I believed if I gave enough, achieved enough, bent myself thin enough, they might love me. I was wrong. In October, I tried again. I invited them for a weekend in Manhattan. I booked a boutique hotel suite, Broadway tickets to a show Lisa mentioned, and reservations at an exclusive restaurant. They came. My mother spent the weekend critiquing my apartment's size and decor. Lisa monopolized conversations with tales of her boyfriend drama, punctuating them with loud laughter that made me feel like an outsider at my own table. Afterwards, Lisa's demands escalated. She called me at work with emergencies, sent passive-aggressive texts if I didn't respond within minutes. Meanwhile, my parents praised her carefree spending as living life to the fullest and labeled my financial security as arrogance. As November bled into December, I dreaded Christmas. Despite everything, I bought thoughtful gifts, rehearsed my boundaries, and prayed for a shred of kindness. But life doesn't grant prayers, it has no intention of answering. On December 15th, during lunch at my desk, I saw it. Scrolling through Instagram, my cousin posted a picture my entire family gathered around a glowing Christmas tree. Early Donovan family Christmas. So blessed to have everyone together, the caption read, everyone but me. My breath caught in my throat. There was Robert carving turkey, Victoria arranging presents, Lisa laughing radiant as ever, aunts, uncles, cousins, even distant relatives I barely knew. My heart pounded so loudly I thought the whole office could hear. Tears blurred my vision as I stared at that screen, trying to understand how I didn't even deserve a text. With shaking hands, I called Victoria. She answered after 4 rings, her voice sugary sweet. "Claire, darling, how are you, Mom? Why wasn't I invited to the family Christmas last weekend?" A pause, then a practiced sigh. "Oh, that. It was very last minute, sweetheart. Lisa mentioned you had plans. We didn't want to intrude." I hadn't told Lisa anything. When I pointed it out, Victoria sighed again, heavier this time. "Please don't start." It was casual. You know how Lisa gets when she feels overshadowed. She's going through a lot. You understand, don't you? You've always been our strong one. Being the strong one was code for the one we can discard without consequences. Before I could reply, she added that they'd see me on Christmas Day for the real celebration. The invitation felt like pity, a bone thrown to a stray dog they'd forgotten to feed. That evening, Lisa texted me, "Sorry you missed the party. Was so fun. Mom said you were busy anyway. BTW. Can you help me pick out Mom's gift-thinking jewelry? Need your thoughts on the budget? LOL. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just another demand sugar-coated as sisterly bonding." That night, I lay awake replaying every memory, the Cancun family vacation I discovered via Facebook photos, my graduation dinner where everyone arrived 3 hours late because Lisa had a fender bender, my promotion celebration cut short because Lisa called crying over a breakup. By morning, something inside me hardened into steel. I texted Victoria that I wouldn't be joining Christmas. She replied instantly, "Family is the most important thing, Claire, but family is not supposed to make you feel invisible. Family is not supposed to feast together while you sit alone at your desk, wondering why you're never enough." That day I called my friend Leah. She and her parents had invited me every Christmas for years. "Of course you can join us," Leah said without hesitation. "You're family to us, Claire." And for the first time in my life, I understood what that word truly meant. It started so small, I almost didn't notice. Like a leak under the sink you ignore, until the floorboards rot away beneath your feet. The first time was just a casual request from my mother Victoria over brunch. She wore pearl earrings and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Claire, sweetheart," she said, stirring her coffee, "Lisa's having trouble with rent this month. You know how hard it is for young women in the city these days. You're doing so well. Could you help her out just this once, just this once?" Those words felt like love, like belonging, like maybe if I said yes, she would look at me the way she looked at Lisa, with that softness in her eyes, that flicker of pride. So I transferred the money before I left the restaurant. That night, I slept easier than I had in months. Then came Robert, my father. He called on a Tuesday morning as I walked into my office building, his voice smooth and confident, the way it always was when he needed something. "Claire, darling, I have this business opportunity, nothing risky, just a quick flip. I'm short on liquidity until my next commission comes in. Could you lend me $15,000 for a few weeks? You'd be helping the family. Helping the family. I typed in my banking app as he spoke. The doorman greeted me. I barely noticed. I wired the money before I reached my desk. When he thanked me, there was no warmth in his voice, only impatience, like my agreement had taken too long. Then Victoria, again 2 months later. Darling, the charity gala is coming up. We're short on platinum sponsors this year. You're our success story, you know. It would look so good to have your name on the donor list beside ours. Just $8,000. Nothing for someone like you. Someone like me. Someone who had spent her entire life trying to become someone they could love. Each time I said yes, I thought, now they'll see me. Now they'll be proud. Each time they nodded absently, patted my hand, and moved on to Lisa's newest drama. My sacrifices disappeared into their lives like drops of ink in the ocean. 3 years ago, Lisa called at midnight. I was half asleep, still in my work clothes, spreadsheets open on my laptop beside me. Her voice shook with tears. "Claire, I messed up," she whispered. "My credit cards, I maxed them all out. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to go away for a bit, clear my head. I owe $12,000. I don't know what to do. Please, I'll pay you back. I'll be better. I promise." Hearing her sob broke something inside me, because in that moment, I didn't hear the spoiled girl who always escaped consequences. I heard my little sister. I heard 4-year-old Lisa in her pink dress sleeping with her thumb in her mouth, and I thought, maybe if I save her, they'll love me. So I paid it off the next morning before my first meeting. She didn't call to say thank you. Days later, I saw her Instagram stories, Lisa laughing on a beach in Bali, coconut drink, in hand-tanned skin gleaming under the sun. Living my best life, blessed paradise, no filter. I sat alone in my dark apartment staring at the photos, wondering what I had done wrong. Why didn't my sacrifices ever translate to love? Why did every dollar I gave feel like dropping coins into a bottomless well, echoing in the emptiness? I tried to be angry, but mostly I felt nothing. An ache so deep it dulled all edges of rage. Because after that came more requests, Lisa's rent again, Robert's short-term investments, Victoria's next gala sponsorship. Each time the sums grew larger, each time their gratitude shrank. Soon they stopped saying thank you at all. My mother would text a curt done after I transferred thousands. My father stopped justifying his requests with explanations. Lisa began sending links to luxury items she wanted with no greeting, no question, just assumption. I became an ATM with a heart they no longer bothered to manipulate, because they didn't need to. I gave willingly, desperately praying that maybe this time they'd see me. I tried to set boundaries weekly at first. "Mom, I can't sponsor the gala again this year. Things are tight." "Oh, sweetheart. That's disappointing. We've already told them you would. People will talk." Dad's voice the next day. "Claire, I hear you're refusing to support your mother's work. She's done so much for you." "We both have." Lisa's text that evening. "You're so selfish, Claire. Honestly. All you care about is money." And so I gave again. Because every refusal felt like rejection. Every yes felt like hope. Because saying no meant risking the only connection I had left to a family who never really loved me, only tolerated my existence as long as I funded theirs. I became skilled at hiding the drain. My friends thought I was generous. My colleagues admired my work ethic, not knowing I worked myself to exhaustion because I needed to keep up with both my life and theirs. No one saw the overdraft notices I deleted before reading the silent panic attacks in office bathrooms, the way I flinched when my phone vibrated with a family text. Each transfer felt like cutting away another piece of myself. And each piece I lost made me believe I deserved their treatment even more. After all, who was I if not useful? Who was I if not the provider? Sometimes late at night, I imagined a version of myself that said no. A version that didn't care if they called her selfish or cold or ungrateful. A version that believed she was enough without having to buy her place at the table. But each morning I woke up still me. Still Claire Donovan. Still the daughter they didn't love, the sister they didn't respect, the woman they didn't see, except when they needed something only I could give. And I kept giving, because giving them what they wanted was easier than accepting the truth that no matter how many thousands I paid, no matter how many pieces of my soul I carved out for them, they would never choose to love me. Robert texted me at 5 a.m. The message was short, brutally precise. No emotion, no question marks or exclamation points, just a command stripped bare from a man who had always believed he held absolute power over me. We built your life. We can destroy it. Drop this now or you're dead to us. I stared at the words glowing on my screen in the pre-dawn darkness, feeling something inside my chest crack open. For a heartbeat, I waited for the old terror to rush in the frantic panic that used to consume me at the thought of losing them. The fear that if they disowned me, if they erased me from this family, I would simply cease to exist. That I would dissolve into nothing without their approval to anchor me in this world. But it didn't come. Instead, standing barefoot in my cold kitchen, the tile biting into my skin, bathed in the faint glow of streetlights bleeding through the frosted window, I felt relief, pure and deep and unexpected. Because here it was, the worst thing I ever feared. The threat they had dangled over me my entire life like a guillotine suspended by a fraying string. And yet I was still standing, still breathing, still here. I pressed down on his name, watching the options appear on my cracked screen. Call, message, block. I hit block. My phone fell silent. The buzzing dread that had lived under my skin for 29 years fell silent with it. And in that silence, in that vast and echoing quiet, I didn't hear emptiness. I didn't hear abandonment. I didn't hear loss. I heard peace. I heard my own heartbeat, strong and steady. I heard the soft hum of my fridge, the city's restless sigh outside the whisper of my own breath, leaving my lungs calm and unhurried. For the first time in my life, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like freedom. Because their love was never love. It was ownership disguised as care control, wrapped in affection. And now, without their voices telling me who I was, I could finally begin to discover it for myself. I put my phone down on the counter, wrapped my hands around my coffee mug, and watched the dark sky slowly bleed into dawn. And I whispered to the rising sun, I am not dead. I am finally alive. I always thought Christmas was supposed to feel warm, like cinnamon candles burning low, like pine needles underfoot, like the quiet hush of snow outside as laughter blooms within. I thought if I just kept trying one day, I'd have that. This year I tried harder than ever. I bought gifts months in advance, thoughtful, perfect gifts, silk scarves in Victoria's favorite muted grays, an engraved money clip for Robert to replace the old one he complained about every time he paid a bill. A limited edition fragrance for Lisa, imported from Paris because she once offhandedly mentioned liking it in an influencer's post. I wrapped each gift myself. Satin ribbons, wax seals with their initials pressed into dark red. I imagined their faces as they opened them, imagined them saying, "Claire, how did you know? Thank you." That was all I ever wanted. Just thank you. But on December 15th, during a lunch break I spent alone at my desk, I was scrolling Instagram when I saw it. My cousin Taylor's post. The entire family gathered around the Christmas tree at my parents' house. Robert carving the turkey sleeves, rolled up jaw set in concentration. Victoria arranging presents under the tree, her pearls glowing against her black cashmere sweater. Lisa in a red dress, hair curled perfectly, laughing with a glass of champagne in hand. Uncles, aunts, cousins, even distant relatives whose faces I barely recognized. All together, all glowing, all home. The caption read, "Early Donovan Family Christmas. So blessed to have everyone together, everyone except me." The phone slipped in my hand. For a moment, the world went silent around me. No clinking keyboards, no muffled conversation from meeting rooms, no humming air vents. Just my pulse hammering in my ears, the bitter taste of grief rising in my throat like bile. I called Victoria with trembling fingers. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice light, airy, unconcerned. "Claire, darling, how are you, Mom?" My voice cracked. Why wasn't I invited to the family Christmas last weekend? A pause. Long enough for me to hear the lie forming in her throat. Oh, that she finally sighed. It was very last minute. "Lisa mentioned you had plans. We didn't want to intrude." I didn't tell Lisa anything. I didn't have plans. Another pause, sharper this time. I could almost hear her eyes rolling. "Please don't start, Claire." It was just a casual gathering. You know how Lisa gets when she feels overshadowed by you. She's going through a difficult time and we didn't want to create tension. You understand, don't you? You've always been our strong one. Our strong one. Code for the one we can discard without consequence. Before I could reply, she added, "Anyway, we'll see you on Christmas Day for the real celebration." The way she said it, as if offering scraps to a starving stray dog, broke something in me I didn't even know was still intact. That evening, Lisa texted me. "Sorry you missed the party. Was so fun. Mom said you were busy anyway. BTW, can you help me pick out Mom's gift-thinking jewelry, but need your money input?" LOL, no apology, no acknowledgement of exclusion. Just another demand hidden in feigned sisterhood. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across my walls. My apartment felt too quiet. My chest felt too heavy. And my mind kept replaying all the other times they had erased me. The family trip to Cancun I only discovered through Facebook photos. My graduation dinner where everyone arrived hours late because Lisa had a minor fender bender. The dinner celebrating my promotion cut short when Lisa called crying about a breakup. They always chose her feelings, her failures, her drama, and me I was useful, but never worthy. That night something inside me shifted, hardened, froze over. The next morning I texted Victoria, "I won't be joining for Christmas Day. I have other plans." She replied instantly, "Family is the most important thing, Claire. Family." That word tasted like ashes in my mouth. Because family isn't supposed to feast while you sit alone at your desk staring at a phone screen trying to remember why you keep loving people who leave you out in the cold. Family isn't supposed to feel like standing outside a window in the snow watching your life unfold in warm rooms you're not allowed to enter. But that's what mine felt like. So I turned off my phone. I made coffee. I sat by the window and watched dawn bleed pink across the frostbitten city skyline. And for the first time in my life, I let myself whisper a truth I'd buried so deep it ached to say, "They don't love me. They just love what I can give them. And this Christmas, I will not give them myself." January in New York is a kind of darkness that crawls under your skin. The snow turns black with city soot, the wind slices your face raw, and each day drags on in an endless gray haze. 3 weeks after Christmas, I wasn't healed, just numb enough to function. Work became my sanctuary. Numbers obey logic. Spreadsheets don't lie. My bank statements didn't manipulate me. They simply told me what I had and what I didn't. That Thursday, I came home late. My mailbox overflowed with bills and coupons, but buried among them was a thick manila envelope with Victoria's elegant handwriting on the front. No note, just my name penned perfectly like an accusation. In the elevator, I opened it thinking it was another gala invite or holiday thank you card. Instead, a stack of documents slid into my hands. On top, an invoice for $70,000 from Luxury Motors of Westchester. Purchaser, Lisa Donovan. Co-signer, Claire Donovan. I blinked, willing the words to rearrange themselves into something sane. But they stayed the same. My signature, scrawled in dark ink, stared back at me. Except it wasn't mine. My knees buckled as the elevator doors opened. I stumbled into my apartment, dropped everything onto the counter, and flipped through each page with shaking hands. Loan documents for a brand new Mercedes GLE Coupe, monthly payments of $1,246 for 60 months insurance and warranty details. And finally, a handwritten note on Lisa's rose gold stationery. Thanks for helping with the new car. The old one was totaled and I needed reliable transportation. Mom and Dad said you'd understand since you're doing so well. First payment due February 1st. Love you, sis. XOXO. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I might throw up on the floor. I called Robert immediately, my voice trembling with rage and disbelief. Dad, what is this? I never agreed to co-sign Lisa's car. That's not my signature. He sighed, bored, like I was interrupting his evening. Don't be dramatic, Claire. Your mother signed for you. We knew you'd be difficult about it, but Lisa needed the car. She has a job interview next week. She has to make a good impression. I laughed. It sounded sharp and hysterical in my kitchen silence. A Mercedes coupe for an interview? That's beside the point, he snapped. She deserves a car she feels confident in. I clenched my fist so tight my nails bit into my palm. This is fraud. You forged my signature. He chuckled softly. Family helps family. You make enough to cover the payments. Don't be selfish. Selfish. The word echoed in my head like a gunshot in a cave. The same word they always used when I tried to keep anything for myself. My time, my money, my dignity. When I hung up, Lisa's text came rapid fire. Dad said, "You're being difficult about the car." OMG, Claire, you're so selfish. I need this. You don't even drive a Mercedes. Why do you care? If you don't help, I'll be stranded. This is life or death for me. Each message chipped away at the numbness I'd wrapped around myself like armor. Underneath, something hot and molten began to rise. A rage so pure it almost felt like clarity. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling thinking they've stolen from me, violated me, and they expect me to thank them for it. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. I spent hours researching fraud law, auto loans, forged signatures. By noon, I had an appointment with an attorney. Before I left, I checked my bank accounts, a habit born of constant vigilance. And there it was, an attempted login to my main savings account, the one with my emergency fund and future home down payment. The attempt had failed, triggering a security lock. The bank confirmed it came from a recognized device, my old laptop, the one I had given Robert last year when I upgraded. I hung up and stared at the quiet hum of my apartment. My reflection in the window looked back at me, pale and shaking, but in her eyes burned something terrifying and beautiful, the realization that this wasn't just manipulation. It was theft, calculated, deliberate, and it would never stop until I stopped it. That afternoon, I sat in Natalie Hoffman's law office, fingers wrapped around a cooling coffee cup as she flipped through the loan documents. "This is textbook fraud," she said, removing her glasses. "Your mother forged your signature on a legally binding document. That is a felony." I nodded as the truth settled heavy in my chest. For years, I'd told myself they were just flawed, just misguided, just family. But this was not love warped by dysfunction. This was exploitation, cold, intentional, criminal. Natalie's gaze softened. "What do you want to do, Claire?" I thought about Lisa's texts, Victoria's sighs, Robert's chuckles, and I felt it, a clean, cold certainty settle into my bones. I want to fight, I whispered. I want them to know they can't do this to me anymore. Because finally, I understood they could take my money. They could forge my name. They could steal my past. But they would never again steal my future. When I left Natalie Hoffman's office that day, the air felt sharper against my skin. The winter wind cut across my cheeks like glass shards, but for the first time I welcomed the sting. It made me feel alive, awake. For the first time, everything was crystal clear. This wasn't family conflict. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. And I had been losing my entire life because I refused to fight back. That evening, as I stepped into my apartment, city lights flickered against the windows like distant fires. My phone buzzed with relentless urgency, voicemails from Robert, each one angrier than the last. "Claire, what do you think you're doing? Threatening us with lawyers? Your mother is in tears. Lisa is devastated. Is that what you wanted? To destroy your family?" Each word felt like acid poured into old wounds. But this time, instead of dissolving me, it burned away the rot they had buried inside my bones. Minutes later, Lisa's texts arrived rapid and venomous. "You're so selfish. I already told everyone about the car. What will they think if it gets taken away? Do you want me to look stupid? Do you want everyone to know you're a vindictive bitch?" And for the first time in my life, I thought, yes, I want them to know. Because finally, I wasn't their silent benefactor. I wasn't their compliant hostage. I was free. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in silence. Tears blurred my vision, hot and bitter, but they weren't tears of grief. They were tears mourning a family I never truly had. By morning, I was steel. I called Natalie, my voice unwavering. "Proceed with the fraud report. Contact the bank, contact the dealership, file everything. I want my name off that loan." "Are you sure, Claire?" she asked gently. "Once we begin, there's no going back." "There's no going back either way," I said, staring at my reflection in the black coffee before me. "Only forward." The days that followed unfolded like scenes from a dystopian film I never auditioned for. The bank's fraud department confirmed my claim. Their tone was professional, edged with compassion. "Family fraud is unfortunately common, Miss Donovan. Reporting it takes courage." Courage. The word felt foreign. Courage implied fear. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I felt empty. And inside that emptiness bloomed something silent and unbreakable resolve. When the repossession order was approved, the notifications came swiftly. Lisa's calls erupted across my phone like fireworks of hysteria. They took my car. I was at the mall. "Claire, do you know how humiliating that is? How could you do this to me? You ruined my life." I blocked her number. For every tear she shed, I shed none. Because I had cried oceans for them in the dark when no one saw. I had wept myself dry long before they noticed I was drowning. Robert left one last voicemail, his voice trembling with rage. "What you've done is unforgivable. Your mother is heartbroken. Lisa is devastated. You are no longer part of this family. Never come back." I sat on my couch listening to his words echo through the quiet apartment. My heart didn't clench. My chest didn't tighten. Instead, I felt lightness spread through me. A liberation that came at the cost of everything I thought I needed. Because the truth burned bright and pure. They had never been my family. They were my captors. And now I was finally free. The next day, Natalie called to confirm my name was cleared from the loan. Victoria and Robert were attempting damage control through their attorney, offering settlements to avoid criminal charges. "They're scared," Natalie said. "They're hoping you'll back down to protect your mother." I thought of Victoria's sighs, her cool dismissals, the way she looked through me like glass. I thought of the years I spent bending myself into shapes small enough to fit their expectations, slicing off pieces of myself to feed their endless hunger. No, I said softly. I don't want revenge. I want peace. Draft a settlement, full legal admission of fraud, repayment of my legal fees, and a binding agreement they will never contact me again, because I didn't want their punishment. I wanted their absence, their silence, their nothingness. 2 weeks later, when the settlement was finalized, I signed it with hands that no longer shook. That evening, as the sun dipped behind skyscrapers and darkness seeped into my apartment, I poured myself tea and sat by the window watching the city glow. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for a text. I wasn't dreading a call. I wasn't bracing for impact. I simply was. And in that stillness, a quiet truth bloomed inside me. They took everything they could, but they could never take who I am becoming. I am Claire Donovan, daughter of no one, family to myself. And for the first time ever, that is enough. When Natalie laid out my options in her warm, wood-paneled office, her voice remained calm and precise. You can report this to the police, Claire. Your mother forged your signature. That's felony fraud. The dealership and bank will investigate. If confirmed, the car will be repossessed, and Victoria could face criminal charges. I sat there staring at the neat stack of papers before me, my name scrawled on documents I never signed, each letter a silent scream carved into the page. For a moment, I wondered if it was really happening, if I was overreacting, but the truth burned cold in my chest. Would you like to proceed? She asked softly. I looked up at her, at the quiet sympathy in her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than numbness. Fury laced with grief, grief laced with a clarity so sharp it almost hurt. Yes, I said, I want to proceed, because love that requires forgery is not love. Family that steals from you is not family, and forgiveness does not mean allowing yourself to be destroyed. The next days unfolded like a nightmare scripted by someone who hated me. Victoria and Robert launched a campaign so ruthless it almost broke me. They called my aunts and uncles, crying about my mental instability, weaving tales about how I was always dramatic, prone to delusions, ungrateful after everything we gave her. They messaged family friends, writing long, trembling paragraphs about how they worried for my sanity, about how money had corrupted me, turned me cold and vindictive. But the worst blow came when Victoria called my boss. Sandra knocked on my glass office door that morning. Her tailored navy suit was as crisp as ever, but her eyes were clouded with concern. She closed the door behind her, sat down across from me, and folded her hands carefully on her knee. Claire, she began gently, your mother called this morning. She implied you're having an emotional breakdown, that you're financially confused, that you're making wild accusations against your family. My throat closed. Shame burned hot in my chest, crawling up my neck until I thought I'd suffocate. For a moment, I wanted to disappear, to curl into myself and apologize for being so difficult, so dramatic, so ungrateful. But Sandra's gaze sharpened. Is any of that true? No, I whispered, my voice trembling with humiliation and rage. They forged my signature on a $70,000 car loan for my sister. I filed a fraud report. Sandra's lips tightened. Then she nodded once briskly, like a general confirming orders. I thought so. Claire, take whatever time you need for legal appointments. And don't let anyone take advantage of you, family or otherwise. Her words cracked something deep inside me. For a fleeting moment, tears threatened to spill, but I swallowed them down. I wouldn't cry at work. Not for them. Because while my family tried to break me, strangers chose to stand beside me. My friends texted daily to check in, sending dumb memes and thinking of you messages at midnight. Leah brought me soup and sat silently on my couch while I read legal emails with shaking hands. My colleagues, once intimidated by my guarded professionalism, now smiled at me with quiet solidarity in the hallways. And Natalie, she fought for me like no one ever had. Don't reply to their manipulations, she warned. Forward every message to me. They're scared, Claire. They know what they've done. But at night, alone in my apartment, their words still haunted me. Echoes of a lifetime. You're ungrateful. You're selfish. You're mentally unstable. The same mantras they had carved into me since childhood. Words that once dictated my every decision. Words that kept me small, silent, compliant. Yet each morning as I read Natalie's updates, each line confirming that I was right, that they had broken the law, that I was not crazy, I felt the weight of those words loosen their grip, like chains rusting away under a relentless sun. For the first time in my life, truth stood on my side. Not theirs, mine. And it burned like dawn breaking through the longest night, because finally I saw them clearly. Their love was a leash. Their approval was poison. Their forgiveness was a currency I would never again pay for. I poured myself a cup of coffee, hands steady for the first time in weeks, and whispered into the quiet morning light, I am done. And in that stillness, a quiet strength bloomed inside me, fierce and unyielding. They can call me ungrateful. They can call me selfish. They can call me mentally unstable. But they will never again call me theirs. The night before the repossession, sleep refused to come. I lay in bed staring at the cracks in the ceiling, paint tracing them like roads on a map I no longer wished to travel. Each jagged line felt like a memory of the paths I had walked to keep their love, each one ending at the same locked door. Outside, the city hummed its restless lullaby. Sirens wailed in the distance, horns blared in irritation and exhaustion, and deep underground, the metallic whisper of subway rails echoed like a giant heart beating beneath the streets. Life moved on out there, indifferent to the small breaking happening within these four walls. I wondered if Lisa was sleeping peacefully, dreaming of the Mercedes she believed would save her. I wondered if Robert was sipping his expensive scotch by the fireplace, certain his authority was unbreakable. I wondered if Victoria was sitting at her antique vanity, brushing her hair in long, deliberate strokes, humming softly to herself, confident that by morning I would bend to their will again. They all believed I would surrender, because I always had. Because every time before, love had been dangled before me like a key to that locked door, and every time I traded pieces of myself for the hope that maybe this time would be different. But this time it was. Lying there in the darkness, I felt it, a stillness so complete it almost felt like death. But under that stillness pulsed something alive and sharp and quietly furious. Resolve. I turned my face into the pillow and whispered into the shadows, let them take back their love. Let them take back their approval. Let them take back everything they ever gave me, because none of it was free and none of it was real. For the first time in my life, I was ready to pay the price of my freedom, no matter how high, because captivity dressed in affection is still captivity. A gilded cage is still a cage. And love that demands your silence, your obedience, your complete erasure is not love, it is ownership. And tomorrow, when they woke to discover their scheme unraveling thread by thread, when their carefully constructed facade collapsed under the weight of my refusal, they would finally understand. The daughter they underestimated, the daughter they dismissed as soft and malleable, was the daughter who would burn their entire illusion to the ground just to save herself. I closed my eyes. Sleep came slow, heavy, and dreamless. And when dawn broke, spilling pale light across my cracked ceiling, so did I. But I did not break into fragments. I did not shatter like glass dropped from trembling hands. I broke into something clear, something unforgiving, something unbreakable, something that belonged to no one but me, mine. 3 days. That's how long it took for the bank to finish their investigation. 3 days of silence so loud it thundered inside my skull. 3 days of waiting for the axe to fall, wondering if I would flinch when it finally did. On the 4th morning, my phone rang. The caller ID read Fraud Department. For a moment, my thumb hovered over the green button as my heart pounded against my ribs like a desperate prisoner. Then I answered. Miss Donovan Robert from the bank began, his voice calm, professional, almost kind. Our investigation has confirmed your signature was forged on the auto loan. We've removed the loan from your credit report and financial responsibility. The vehicle will be repossessed today. I thanked him with a voice that barely sounded like mine. After I hung up, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the steam curling from my coffee mug. And I felt nothing. Not relief, not victory, just a quiet emptiness. A silence where fear used to live. That afternoon, the calls started. Lisa's number lit up my screen again and again until I turned the ringer off. But her voicemail still poured in, each one more frantic than the last. They took my car. Claire, I was at the mall. Do you know how humiliating that was? You ruined everything. You ruined my life. Her voice cracked with sobs, each word vibrating with rage and acid desperation. But I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger or guilt. I only felt tired, bone-deep, marrow-crushing tiredness, because I had spent my entire life trying to save her. Save her from consequences, from responsibility, from herself. And every time, all I taught her was that I would bleed so she could drink. Then came Robert's call. His message was short, each word carved from ice and vibrating with controlled fury. What you've done is unforgivable. Your mother is in tears. Lisa is devastated. You are no longer part of this family. Never come back. I listened to his words as I folded laundry in my silent apartment, the late afternoon sun staining the sky in streaks of copper and ash. His voice, once so powerful, so final, now sounded small, almost pitiful. Victoria didn't call. She didn't have to. Her silence was louder than any scream. I imagined her sitting at her vanity pearls around her neck, shaking her head with that look of disappointed disdain I knew so well. That look used to shred me open. Now it slid off my skin like water off glass. That evening, I blocked their numbers, one by one. Each contact deleted felt like severing a rotting limb. Painful, yes, but life-saving, necessary. I stood by my window watching darkness swallow the city in waves of silver and shadow. For the first time, there was no dread curling in my gut at their absence. No compulsion to fix what I did not break. Only a quiet stillness blooming in the ruins they left behind. Because I realized something simple and devastating. Being disowned by people who never truly owned you is not a loss. It is liberation. They had only ever seen my worth in what I could provide. Now, stripped of that utility, I was worthless to them. And in that worthlessness, I finally found freedom. That night, as sleep pulled gently at my bones, I whispered into the darkness of my quiet apartment, "Let them hate me. Let them erase me. Let them call me selfish, cold, heartless. If saving myself makes me those things, then I will carry those names like armor." For the first time in my life, I slept without fear of waking to their demands. I slept without calculating what pieces of myself I'd have to sacrifice to keep their love. I slept knowing that I had burned the bridge they used to walk across my soul, and on the ashes, I would build a life they could never touch again. A life with no silent expectations. No hidden barbs behind sweet words. No love that cost me my dignity. Just me. Whole. Bruised, yes, but unbroken. Because in their eyes, I was selfish. But in my eyes, I was finally free. And for the first time, that was enough. The days after felt like walking barefoot through the charred ruins of a house I'd spent my whole life trying to build. Each room still held the ghost of who I had been, the daughter, desperate to please the sister, desperate to save. But the walls were gone. The roof was gone. Only sky remained above me, endless and silent. I woke up each morning expecting panic to grip my chest, expecting regret to claw at my throat and whisper, "Go back. Fix it. Apologize." But it didn't come. Instead, there was quiet, heavy at first, pressing against my ribs, unfamiliar in its weight. Then, as the hours passed, it became lighter, like the first desperate breaths after surfacing from deep-water lungs burning but finally free to inhale. Their absence was deafening. No calls, no demands, no sighs of disappointment curling down the phone line like smoke wrapping around my neck. No reminders that I was only as good as my last sacrifice. And in that silence, a single question looped through my mind like a song I couldn't turn off. If they had truly loved me, would this have been so easy for them? One night out of reflex, I checked Lisa's social media. Her feed was a curated wound, each post designed to bleed sympathy from strangers. Pictures with old friends at rooftop bars. A new hair color captioned with cryptic resilience. Some people would rather see you suffer than watch you shine. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's betrayal. Hundreds of comments flooded in, words of comfort, rage on her behalf. People who didn't know the truth offering her the validation she craved like oxygen. For a moment I felt the old tug in my chest, the instinct to defend myself, to explain. But then I looked at her smile on screen, glossy and perfect. The same smile that used to make me think she deserved saving. Now I saw it clearly for what it was, a shield, not a wound. A tool, not a truth. I turned off my phone and placed it face down on the table. Exhaled long and slow, feeling my lungs expand in a way they hadn't in years. The city lights flickered beyond my window, gold and cold and eternal, uncaring of human heartbreak. For the first time, I allowed myself to taste the words I had swallowed my entire life. They never loved me. They only loved what I could do for them. And now they have nothing left to take. A chill ran through me, but it wasn't fear. It was freedom. Stark, empty, boundless. And in that emptiness, a faint warmth began to bloom in my chest. Because emptiness isn't loneliness, it is space. Space to build, space to breathe, space to become. That night I fell asleep without tears. For the first time in forever, my dreams were silent. No voices demanding, no hands pulling me back into their darkness. Just quiet. Soft, endless quiet. And in that silence, I heard it. The faint, steady sound of my own life beginning. Like dawn breaking. Like the first heartbeat in a newborn chest. Mine. Finally mine. I always thought healing would feel like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, like warmth flooding frozen skin until life returned in a rush of color and sound. But in truth, it felt like nothing at first. Just emptiness. An expanse of silence where chaos used to live. Some mornings, I woke up reaching for my phone, bracing for demands, insults, tears. And when none came, the quiet pressed heavy against my chest, almost suffocating in its unfamiliar weight. Almost. Because beneath that suffocation, beneath the echoing hollowness, was something I had never felt before. Peace. Small at first, fragile. Like a seed cracking open underground, unseen but unstoppable. I spent my evenings alone learning the shape of my solitude. Cooking dinner for myself without budgeting for Lisa's rent, drinking tea by the window without rehearsing apologies for Robert's anger, folding laundry without wondering if Victoria would call to sigh down the line at my failures. Each day the peace grew. Each day the rage that once kept me upright faded into memory, replaced by something colder and stronger, acceptance. The understanding that they were never going to love me. Not in the way I needed, not in the way they should have. Their love came with invoices, with guilt-edged receipts, with price tags I could no longer afford to pay. And so I stopped paying. Therapy helped. Dr. Chen asked me once if Lisa called tomorrow, crying and apologizing, would you take her back? The question sliced me open in a place I hadn't dared touch yet. I swallowed tears burning behind my eyes and whispered, no, because her love costs too much. And I finally understand I'm not willing to go bankrupt for affection. On weekends, I started hiking. at first with Leah and her friends, then alone. I learned the rhythm of my own breath on steep trails, the comforting burn in my thighs as I climbed the quiet pride of reaching a summit without anyone's help or validation. I stood at the top of Bear Mountain, one crisp October morning wind tangling my hair, and felt something crack open in my chest. Not joy exactly, but something better. Freedom. Work became easier. I no longer spent every meeting half distracted by my family's emergencies. I no longer checked my phone in secret panic, praying there wasn't another crisis draining my account and my spirit. 3 months later, Sandra promoted me. When she shook my hand, I felt a flicker of something warm in my chest. Pride. For myself. From myself. A feeling I had chased my entire life through other people's approval, finally blooming from within. Victoria once told me, "You'll never survive without family." But she was wrong. Because I didn't just survive. I began to live. Some nights grief came back like phantom pain. Mother's Day, Christmas, Lisa's birthday, memories curled around my ribcage, tight and aching. Their absence roared louder on those days, echoing off the walls of my quiet apartment. But now I let myself feel it. I didn't fight the tears. I didn't drown in them either. I just let them be. Because grief is love with nowhere to go. And love, even unreturned, deserves to exist. One dawn, as the city woke in streaks of rose gold and ash blue, I stood by my window, warm mug in my hands, and whispered words that felt both like mourning and a benediction. I forgive you, but I will never come back. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about unhooking the chains they wrapped around my throat. It's about walking away, unburdened, free to breathe without their hands tightening around my lungs. Now my life is quiet. But in that quiet, I hear music I never noticed before. The soft hum of my kettle as it boils, the wind rattling against my window panes, the gentle creak of floorboards under my feet, my own heartbeat steady and certain. This is what healing feels like, not joy, not triumph, but a slow, steady rebuilding, like learning to breathe again after years underwater, like planting a garden in soil that once held only stones, like walking through my apartment and knowing every inch of it is mine, bought with my own pain but lived in with my own peace. I am Claire Donovan. I am the daughter of no one, the sister of no one, and yet I am not alone, because I have myself, and for the first time in my life, that is not just enough. It is everything. Healing isn't a straight line. It isn't a sunrise that once risen never dims. Some days I woke up feeling light, almost joyful. Breathing felt easier. Coffee tasted warmer. The city outside my window looked like possibility instead of punishment. The streets, once gray and suffocating, shimmered under early morning light, promising small joys, the scent of fresh bagels drifting from the deli downstairs, the rhythm of hurried footsteps echoing on wet pavement, the quiet satisfaction of simply existing without fear. But then there were mornings when grief sat heavy on my chest, pressing down until I couldn't move. Memories arrived uninvited, curling around my mind like ivy reclaiming old brick. Lisa's laughter echoing down the hallway, sharp and sweet. Victoria's perfume clinging to my childhood sweaters. Chanel No. 5 mingled with memories of her cold hands fixing my collar before church. Robert's voice calling me his smart girl in that syrup slick tone he reserved for when he needed money wired by noon. I used to fight these memories. I was terrified they would pull me back into wanting them. Terrified they would awaken the old hunger for love that was never freely given. But now I let them come. I let them pass through me like trains at a station I no longer boarded, rumbling, loud and close, but leaving me unmoved on the platform. Because each memory, each pain, each flicker of nostalgia was proof that I survived them, that I had walked through their fire and emerged burned, yes, scarred and raw, but alive. And there is a quiet power in survival. Some nights when the city went silent and the only sound was my own breathing steady and certain in the darkness, I asked myself, was it worth it? Was losing them worth this fragile peace? Was solitude worth this uncharted freedom? And every time the answer rose from the deepest part of me, from the marrow that had carried me through their storms. Yes, because this silence, heavy as it sometimes felt, was honest. Because this emptiness, echoing as it sometimes sounded, was mine. I could fill it with whatever I chose. I could leave it empty and still be enough. I was no longer a daughter defined by obedience, no longer a sister defined by sacrifice, no longer a woman defined by what she could give and how quietly she could bleed. Their absence had stripped away every title they gave me, leaving behind something terrifying in its simplicity, just Claire. Claire who likes her coffee strong and her books long. Claire who walks to the park on Sundays to watch golden retrievers chase tennis balls in sloppy delight. Claire who cries during movie trailers but laughs when the subway jolts so hard it throws everyone sideways. Claire who is learning that loving herself is not selfish, it is salvation. And for the first time, that felt like enough. I didn't know what came next. Love, maybe. Real friendship that didn't taste like obligation. New dreams that didn't revolve around proving my worth to people committed to never seeing it. A life built from quiet joys and fierce boundaries, from mornings filled with music and nights unburdened by dread. Whatever it was, it would be mine. And that was all I needed. Because healing isn't a straight line. It's a spiral staircase climbing higher with each painful turn. And at the top waits a room filled with light, wide and silent and free. My room, my life, my peace, finally mine. I used to think family was everything, that no matter how much it hurt, no matter how deep the betrayal ran, I had to stay. Because blood is blood. Because leaving meant I was selfish. Because staying silent was easier than facing the echo of my own thoughts in the empty spaces they left behind. But now I know family is not who shares your blood. Family is who shares your truth, who sees your darkness and stays, who never asks you to dim your light to keep their shadows comfortable, who never trades your worth for their convenience. Robert, Victoria, Lisa. They were never my family. They were lessons I had to bleed for to finally understand this being used is not the same as being loved. Being needed is not the same as being cherished. And walking away isn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the most loyal thing you can do to yourself. Because staying silent for love that demands your silence is not love. It is submission. It is surrender. It is the slow erasure of everything you are just to keep the peace they built on your broken pieces. Now, when people ask me if I regret it, if I miss them, if the silence is too heavy, I smile softly and say, silence isn't heavy. It's honest. And I would rather live in honest emptiness than in love that was never real. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is space. Space to breathe, space to heal, space to become. To you reading this right now, if there is a part of you trembling at the thought of leaving, if your heart still whispers, maybe they'll change, maybe if I just give more love, harder, stay quieter, shrink smaller. Hear me. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You are not required to bleed so they can feast. You are allowed to walk away from those who drain you. You are allowed to build a life where peace is not earned by sacrifice. You are allowed to choose yourself. Because at the end of it all, when the noise fades and the lights go out, the only person left holding your broken pieces will be you. Choose to protect her. Choose to honor her. Choose to love her. Because she is the only home you will ever truly have. If my story resonated with you, tell me, have you ever walked away from someone you loved to save yourself? What did it cost you, and what did it give you in return? Leave your truth below. Let it be a candle for someone else still lost in the dark. Because your healing is not selfish, your freedom is not betrayal, your silence is not weakness. It is strength. It is clarity. It is the first step towards a life where you are not just surviving, but finally deeply living. Share this with someone who needs to hear walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it is the bravest thing you will ever do. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, real family does not demand your sacrifice. Real family celebrates your survival. Real family chooses you not for what you give, but simply because you exist. I thought it was over until the 2 a.m. text message. Lisa texted me at 2 a.m., "If you don't stop, I'm going to kill myself." Do you want that, Claire? Do you have my blood on your hands? I raised my hand, but a minute later I saw her text to my mom in the group chat, "Don't worry, she'll back off." When you say that, she always backs off. This time I didn't back off. Victoria called her voice sweet as honey but colder than ice. "If you sue, your father's heart will not survive his death, will be forever etched on your conscience." I smiled a bitter smile. They had lived their whole lives in fear of me. Today I chose to let them fear losing me. Robert texted, "We built your life. We can destroy it. Leave now or you die with us." I looked at the message. I hit block. A sentence rang in my head sharp as a knife. "If losing me is like death to you, maybe you should treat me like I'm alive." Thank you for staying with me through this story, for walking with me into the darkness, for sitting with me in the silence, and for witnessing the truth I was too afraid to speak out loud for so many years. If my journey resonated with you, if it cracked something open inside your chest, know this: you are not alone. Your pain is real. Your freedom is worth every battle. Thank you for giving my words a place to land. And thank you for choosing to listen when so many turned away.